Welcome to Long Creek Homestead. We are in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains of Maryland. We have an amazing site that is crowned with our beautiful circular strawbale home, which was built from the woods around us. We're blessed with a lot of beautiful woods. We have a stream running through our property, and we've created multiple food forests here as well. Today, I'd like just to walk you around, show you many of the beautiful, amazing plants, fruits, nuts, useful plants. We grow a lot. We basically have a botanical garden here, a permaculture botanical garden. And we also have some really smart designs for harvesting water, for building soil fertility that I'm going to touch on. But really just want to take this beautiful day here in June to walk around and share some of the amazing sites that will hopefully give you ideas and inspiration for creating your own edible landscape, your own permaculture landscape, which I break down into how-to steps in all of my works. I've got 2 books, I've got multiple online courses, I have a lot of freebies as well to help you actually engage and start doing and planting and creating a beautiful space like ours. That's what I'm here for, that's all I'm after, is I want to see more of this beauty in the world, and that's gonna start with me and you. Let's check it out. So here outside of our house, we have a beautiful willow dome. This is a living willow dome that is planted and woven together. And every year we come along and we cut those whips and we use them for different projects, and then we reweave it and it reshoots every year. So it's this amazing space that's great for gathering in, great for sitting in, you know, doing your meditation, your yoga, your spiritual practices, your drumming, whatever you're called to do. This creates a sacred, special space for that. And the architecture of it is beautifully designed to resonate and reflect our circular house. I grow a lot of willows. Let's check some more out. So here's one of our more recent living sculptures. This is a 60-foot long willow tunnel that was just planted 1 year ago with 12-inch whips. Willows root and grow so quickly. One of the most rewarding plants. There are over 400 species of willows. So there's almost a willow for every site and condition. In this case, all of these are weaving willows, and there's over 30 different types within this tunnel. So another year, I'm gonna bring these over and I'm gonna tie them together, and we're gonna have this magical space to walk through and also to harvest from. So this is stacking your beauty and your function together. And check out what's right next door over here. We got Goumi berries popping off. These are absolutely beautiful and tasty. Check these out. These are little red gems. These are one of the most gorgeous fruits, one of those gorgeous bushes, and one of the most amazing fruits. They're sweet and tart. And they're one of the first things to fruit. Right now in June, they have a tiny seed in them. You can eat it or spit it or plant it. And they grow on a gorgeous shrub that has like a silvery underleaf to it, and a very disease-resistant, pest-resistant leaf and bush that gets, this one's kind of young, and they produce very quickly. So you want quick fruit, plant Goumis. They fix nitrogen, they feed themselves and the plants around them. They shoot up and they fruit within like 3 years. I've never picked the berries off of one bush. Kids love them, chickens love them, they're obsessed with them. This is a winner for sure. Next to it is a grafted mulberry. So look at the size of that leaf. Very different than your wild mulberry, and the fruit is very different too. You're gonna see large fruits, very tasty fruits. We'll show you some more about mulberries here in a bit. Another type of Goumi here. There's basically 3 types of Goumis that you can get from the nursery trade. You can get sweet scarlet, which is probably my favorite, red gem, and there's one that has a larger fruit called carmine. All 3 are excellent. Plant them up. You get 2, you get more fruit, but even 1 is gonna be mostly self-fertile, which means you're probably gonna have plenty of fruit with just 1. But if you got space, plant more. All right, let's go check out some more stuff. Oh, hardy kiwi, cousin to the fuzzy, is a small, non-fuzzy, it's sometimes called kiwi berry. And the hardy kiwi grows way up into the north, which gives it a lot of extension for us. And it likes to grow as a vigorous ornamental vine that I recommend building strong for. This one's only a couple years old, and soon it's going to completely encase this and make it a gorgeous pergola, wonderful place to sit while it hangs large drupes of fruits for you to pick. Hardy kiwis are awesome. These are 2 females, and I planted a male right next door so that it'll cross-pollinate but not dominate my main fruiting arbor here. So keep your males within distance, but you can separate them. There are a few self-fertile ones, which I'll show you in another part of the landscape here. Let's keep going. All right, so this is a matured Hugelkultur bed. Hugelkultur is an old Germanic word, basically meaning wood covered with soil. It's making compost in place with all the organic matter that's coming down on your site, or maybe you're finding, at your neighbors. You want to hold that on your site. It builds soil fertility, holds water, and once it begins maturing, you start planting into it and things explode. They do so well. They have all the fertility built in. They're like a sponge that holds moisture, so even during drought, these things thrive. Here you can see we've got a pawpaw right here on the bottom concave part of that Hugelkultur bed. Super sweet spot where it's got a lot of moisture drainage, and then it can stick its roots into that decomposing Hugelkultur bed and pump fruit. More about pawpaw later. And then further down here, we've got Nanking bush cherries. Let's check those out. So Nanking bush cherries, yes, cherries on a bush, is an extremely productive fruiting edible landscape all-star. These only grow to be about 6 to 8 feet tall, take all types of soil conditions, and are extremely productive. Ornamental flowers in the early spring, absolutely delicious. They're a cross between a sweet and a tart cherry. Good, right out of hand. These are delicious, highly recommend planting these up. So here at the edge of our woods, we have built a smoker, a cold smoker, mostly for chestnuts. We're big chestnut growers here. This is the hybrid, the Asian chestnut, which does really well in the Mid-Atlantic region. And we've got racks and racks in here that get cold smoked. Absolutely delicious way to preserve your chestnuts. And then out here is where we cold smoke them. Come harvest season, which for us is late September and October, we will feed this fire and it'll cold smoke, meaning that the heat dissipates largely dissipates before it gets into the cold smoker, and then that smoke helps preserve and flavor your chestnuts. Awesome technology. And of course, if you didn't know already, we're all about the fungi here. Not just the fungi that we can grow and eat, but the fungi that feed the soil, that run through all the organic matter, and that boost fertility. Really growing good food and good healthy ecosystems is all about working with the fungi and making sure that they're happy, which basically means that they have consistent organic matter and moisture. We can create those conditions. Let's check it out. So here down by our stream, we are growing our mushrooms. We grow shiitake, oyster mushrooms mainly because they are the easiest types of mushrooms to grow outdoors on logs. So you can see we've got them in different stages of stacked like Lincoln logs, and then these have recently fruited, so we lean them up so we can harvest them. Growing mushrooms outdoors is extremely easy, especially in our humid climate, and we can take advantage of all this shade. And you've never had a mushroom as tasty as one that's been grown on a log with a really choice type of mushroom, which have been selected over hundreds of years. So you're not foraging, you're growing, and you know what you're supposed to be getting, which makes it safe and tasty. Come check it out down here too. So here we're crossing our creek. We're basically in an Appalachian holler here. What's called a riparian zone, where water is coming down around the surrounding landscapes into our spot, which makes this a very moist, stagnant, humid spot, which in our mid-Atlantic climate can often lead to a lot of disease issues if you're planting those fruits and nuts and trees that are susceptible. So we choose wisely. We're like, well, what's gonna thrive? What's gonna thrive with neglect and fit our environment, right? So that's why we grow pawpaws and select mulberries and a lot of these other characters I'm gonna show you. We're not trying to struggle and grow like peaches and nectarines and even many apples, and even a lot of pears will suffer in this. Even though we love those fruits, we don't work with things that are gonna struggle in our climate. We find the things that thrive. So This is an early stage food forest where you can see the different patches beginning to form. So a food forest is not growing food in the forest, it's growing food like the forest. We take the examples of healthy forest ecosystems where everything is pumping together, overstory, mid-story, you got vines, shrubs, herbaceous layers, it's all pumping. So we take that observation and we come out on our landscape and we come out into our lawns and we're like, well, I want to start growing some fruits and nuts. Instead of just sticking it in a sea of grass, maybe a little dinky mulch ring, we're going to create a patch. We're going to create an area that we can do a diversity of plants in, that we can mulch up and love up, and we can let it explode and have those fungal networks that are so important. So by creating these patches, you begin the process of creating a long-term food forest, and it can be simple as starting one patch at a time. Cover all this in my books and a lot of my free resources on my website. I like to simplify things so that you know what to do, and this works great. I'll show you some of the older food forests so you can see how this ends up. Let's check it out. So coming into one of our older food forests, we have a beautiful specimen of an American persimmon, a grafted American persimmon. These are one of the most exquisite fruits on the planet. Basically a tropical fruit as well, like the pawpaw that grows in the north. Very hardy, takes all kinds of soil conditions, has a smaller persimmon than you're used to seeing in the grocery stores, which are the Asian persimmons. The American persimmons are smaller, they need to be perfectly ripe, but their flavor profiles blow away any other type of persimmon I've ever had. Beautiful trees, in full sun, they may only get about 25 feet tall. You do need some cross-pollination. Ideally you use grafted cultivars of persimmons. Stay tuned for a lot of my work about persimmons. All right, so here we're walking into sort of what I call a stage 2 food forest. This one is about 6 years old, and we took lawn that was facing south with black walnut trees around. So all the species here do fine with black walnuts. These are different cultivars of pawpaws in here. This one is Potomac, one of Neil Peterson's, one of my favorite pawpaws. The biggest pawpaws come from this cultivar. Absolutely delicious, beautiful, vigorous growing pawpaw as well. I've got a number of different cultivars throughout this whole section. Again, all started as patches. My patch method is doing what we call in permaculture a sheet mulch, also called lasagna gardening, where we'll layer down organic matter right on top of your grass or weeds, and we'll start to build that soil fertility by that organic matter breaking down and feeding the soil and bringing in the fungi. So we do that one patch at a time. In the case of pawpaws, we're spacing them about 12 feet apart, so you could do a patch about 12, 15 feet apart. But also in this mix, we're planting the future overstory. So now, after about 6 years, these pawpaws are coming online and they're starting to produce fruit for us, and will continue for the next 20 years to produce fruit. But meanwhile, I've gone and started planting the future overstory in here, which are nut trees, which again are the Chinese chestnut trees, northern pecans, hickories, so that as they grow up over time, as the pawpaw begins to age out, we'll have our overstory canopy, and we've capitalized on all that available sun for productivity. This is called syntropic. This is dynamic food forest stacking. It's actually not that complicated, and it's a lot of fun. And you'll see I've got lots of ground covers that after I jumpstart my patches with sheet mulch and wood chips, I'll come in and start planting what I call green manures. These are running comfrey. This is Japanese perennial vegetable fuki. I'll use different types of mints. I'll let it start to get pretty wild in here. As long as my layer is staying at about 2 feet tall, I want this organic matter, these running ground covers to be here. They pulse and feed that soil so that I'm not out here constantly maintaining, and they're building fertility. So once you set these things in place with good design, they function and flourish for themselves. Let's check out one of my favorite mulberries is right here. So in the north, most mulberries are large trees. You can cut them, and I'll show how I do that as well. But there is one that is a true dwarf, and it's called Giraldi dwarf mulberry. And it actually, you can see, it's this beautiful small tree right here, and it has these gorgeous, very, very tasty mulberry fruits to them. These are delicious. Not like, ooh, that's tart and rich in flavor. Your wild mulberries, your bird-sown wild berries they're random. and they're typically don't have the same flavor profiles as your cultivated mulberries. So it's worth getting grafted mulberries going on your site. And for a smaller, this one is great and a tasty fruit. This is a gorgeous example of a pawpaw tree right here. So this pawpaw is about 10 years old. It's grown in full sun because it's well mulched, it's protected from winds. I prune it and keep it down to about 8 feet because you want to be able to reach all of your fruits, because this is a cultivar that will produce up to 2-pound sized fruits, large mango sized fruits. So you don't want to be trying to climb these things and harvest fruit. You want your feet flat on the ground, you want to pick them. More on pawpaws in a minute. So welcome to our permaculture garden. Permaculture garden is a very eclectic, diverse, and lush place. We have a hardy kiwi arbor here as the entrance, built on black locust posts because they become heavy. A female hardy kiwi can produce up to 100 pounds of fruit. So you want to build and be ready for that. But again, another portal, come on in. So this garden is designed on a series of swales, one after the other. So a dugout base and a berm, a dugout base and a berm, all the way through. Most of the water is being harvested by the first berm and the first basin, but it helps hold and hydrate the rest of the garden. Now also, all of this texture creates microclimates, which is really important for different types of beneficial insects to live in. Also, it helps hold moisture down deep in those basins that keep getting covered with organic matter and cardboard, and helps the whole zone become fertile and holds moisture. So I love doing this design of my swales one after the other for my raised beds gardens, because then you're harvesting and holding the water, creating habitat. This is an absolutely wild, grown-in herb spiral that I started planting Jerusalem artichokes in and all kinds of other perennials. So I've kind of lost my herb spiral in there, but it still is wonderful habitat because of all the stones that get stacked. That creates the beneficial habitat for those insects and critters that balance the insect ecology in your garden on your landscape. So you don't want a landscape that's all clean and neat and tidied up at the end of the season, because that leaves no habitat. There's nowhere for your beneficial critters to overwinter. And then the next year, when you start getting an abundance of an attacking insect, they're going to decimate your stuff. Whereas we have habitat to balance those insects so that we're not worried when there's an abundance of something eating in our neighborhood. So in the garden, I'm growing a lot of my favorite perennials. Some of the most valuable berries that we have on our site are black currants, right? Black currants, we're in the southern range for them, so only a few cultivars do really well. Consort is definitely one of the best of the black currants to grow. Menage, Titiana, these are ones that I will give prime space to because they're the most valuable berry we probably pick, because the flavor it adds to jams and wines. Black currants are absolutely phenomenal. And they like good drainage. So putting them on the top of the berm on this swale design in the garden gives them lots of drainage, yet lots of humidity around them. Blueberries love that. I mean, most all your plants are gonna love that combination. Also in this garden, I grow constant perennials. You know, I have beds that are complete perennials so that maintains habitat for the rest of the garden. But at this point, I've got tons of perennial habitat. I've got muscadine grapes growing all along the sides of my fence, my deer fence, because this is the deer garden, keep them out. And schizandra berry, a medicinal berry vine over there. And I also do a lot of my grafting for my nursery work, my agroforestry work. And here you can see I've been grafting persimmons. I've probably grafted 50 persimmons in just the last couple of days, where I grow out the seeds, and then I come and I cut off the tops and I graft on the cultivars that I want. These will turn into delicious fruits that I'll then plant in my different orchard and agroforestry projects. So I do use some of my garden space for propagating. You know, I'll propagate my currants, my elderberries, my Nanking bush cherries. You know, I use this space, in-ground space, to help grow out for my projects. You know, use your garden in multiple ways. So here's another hardy kiwi design that I've come up with. This is for a self-fertile hardy kiwi. This is a very unique type of hardy kiwi. It's a Japanese one, it's called acai. Now acai, being self-fertile, is not as vigorous and crazy growing as some of your other hardy kiwis. So I've created this umbrella-shaped arbor for it so that we can come and sit and eat. And it's just fruited, it's just finished flowering, and it's absolutely loaded. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of little fruits on here are gonna mature and come in the fall. And you wanna eat hardy kiwis when they're super ripe, and they're absolutely delicious. They're like fuzzy kiwi, their cousin, but without the acidity, and you can just pop the whole thing in your mouth. They're absolutely delicious. And then come check out these mulberries over here. So, mulberries, grafted mulberries are a totally different story than your wild sown, bird sown ones. And you can get some really huge berries off of these. These are just starting. Large, plump berries with complex flavors in them. One of my favorite is called kokuso. Kokuso is a great cultivar to look for. It also makes really good fodder. So if you have animals, this is one of the most balanced, nutritionally balanced fodders on the planet. So you can grow this, you can chop and drop this as what we call perennial hay in agroforestry systems and food forests. So you can get multiple harvests out of your mulberries. They graft very easily. This one is actually grafted onto a wild grown, bird sown mulberry that grew up along the fence. And I've now grafted 7 different cultivars of mulberry on this one tree. So this is opportunity waiting to happen. I bet most of you out there know where a mulberry is growing wild near you somewhere. Get out there and graft it, and you're gonna have awesome fruit, abundant fruit, so much fruit. And mulberry pie is to die for. Plant it up. So on our homestead, we have an old barn foundation that has turned into a permaculture nursery, a space where to propagate, for people to come and disseminate some of these amazing species. Because I've trialed on this site, hundreds of different types of each type of fruit to see what does really well. So I've gone through a lot, which hopefully other folks don't have to. Wonderful character here. This is another hardy kiwi, but this hardy kiwi I'm growing more like a grape, like on a vine as a bush, right? Which is possible. The deer, we have tons of deer, by the way, and you can design for deer. You can have abundance with deer. You just have to consider them in your design. They actually help me with these hardy kiwis because they trim them back for me, which keeps them from going totally wild, because typically they want a large arbor or something to run on. But absolutely fantastic fruit right here, snack fruit on your path as you come into the food forest, one of our older food forests. This food forest is coming on 15 years and is absolutely lush, full of fruits and tons of useful plants. Watch out for the stinging nettle as you come in. This is another one of my living willow structures, architecture. It only takes a couple of years for these to get going this beautiful and this big, and they create a great portal, like a transitional space. When you come through this space, you know you're in somewhere completely amazing. And look at this place, it's absolutely loaded. Juneberries, jujubes, Fungi, PawPaws, che fruit, Goumis, more Goumis pumping, Nanking bush cherries right here going absolutely nuts. Tons of fruit. I mean, it'd be hard to even pick all of those. You certainly are not going to pick all of your Goumis. There's thousands and thousands and thousands on these bushes. We've got a lot of beneficial plants like stinging nettle here, which is great also to eat once you flash steam it or make a tea out of it. It's a soil builder as well. We're going to chop and drop this so that it'll pulse the soil. Indigo bush, nitrogen fixing shrub in there. On in to the jungle here. Jujubes, one of my favorites, fruits, probably the children's favorite. The children love jujubes and they love the Goumis. Those are like 2 hands down favorite. And what the kids love, plant. But they're the ones that are out here eating and harvesting most of this. These are all different grafted pawpaws. These are all different cultivars that are sitting on a swale. So a swale is a key design used a lot in permaculture for passively harvesting water as it comes down the landscape. You dig out a basin on the contour, so perfectly perpendicular to the slope. It's like your arms are out to grab that water. That water falls in that basin. That soil that you dug the basin with creates a downhill berm, a raised bed. That's where you can plant your perennials on. And as that water comes down and stops, it sinks in and it hydrates not just the raised berm, but for 30, 40 feet down slope, you know, the rest of the food forest or your lawn. A lot of great learning and understanding around water harvesting covered in both my books and my works, because that's one of the important steps of setting the bones of your design so that it thrives for itself, right? You get a few of these pieces together and everything thrives. I don't come out here and do hardly any maintenance. Mostly I'm harvesting. I might come through and chop and drop and help pulse this organic matter and build that soil faster, but I don't even have to do that. These plants themselves will do that on their own time. But really, I'm mostly out here just enjoying this space, sharing it, educating with it, and harvesting from it. Look, we got some little baby pawpaws right here. So we're in June. These are little guys. These are going to get a lot bigger. We have our Pawpaw Festival in September. It's the third Saturday in September, where we celebrate all things Pawpaw. We do multiple tours, talks. We have great earth-based vendors. Of course, lots of different cultivars of pawpaws that you can come and try. Pawpaw ice cream, pawpaw jam, pawpaw ginger beer. I mean, it's an amazing time. Highly recommend coming. It's a ticketed event that does sell out, so get in advance so that you can come and you can see our spot. You can walk around this place and you can have this sort of magical experience of what edible landscaping and permaculture can look like, you know, here at Long Creek Homestead. So I welcome you in any which way you want to come, and please share your adventures and your successes, you know, with me, because it's a community and together we can like grow and change the world the way we want it to.